Well, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate this. I can tell you that the conversation we're going to have here is going to be watched a lot. And I know at least two of the candidates that are going to be watching, and they're interested in what you have to say. This is the only vice presidential debate there's going to be. And I want to welcome everyone at home to our post-vice presidential debate town hall meeting here at Merit TV. Tonight we have an audience of 36, mostly undecided voters, or at least they were when they started, maybe not anymore, who with just 34 days until the presidential election, I think some of y'all are still looking for answers, right? You're still looking to see where some of these people stand on things that matter to you. Now, my first question is, how was this debate tonight? And I'll ask for a show of hands. Did tonight's debate between Republican vice presidential nominee Senator J.D. Vance and Democratic nominee Governor Tim Walz sway the needle for you? Is there anybody here that heard anything tonight that you thought, that's what I've been waiting to hear? I've been waiting for somebody to clear this up for me, and all of a sudden, I get it. I now know what differentiates these two sides. Anybody hear anything that really swayed you tonight? If you did, raise your hand. If you didn't, raise your hand. If you would have rather been watching a rerun of the Three Stooges, I mean, was this a waste of your time? What did you get out of this? Just raise your hand and tell me what you got out of this, if anything. Stand up, say your first name.
Yeah, I'm Patrick. It was nice. They were nice to each other. They were civil, and I ended up liking Vance a little bit more than I had before. It was a really pleasant debate, and it was good to hear differing opinions that seemed to be civil to each other.
Yeah, how many of you agree that this was more civil than what you've been hearing? Okay, everybody agrees with that. All right, did you find that appealing? Did you like that? If you did, raise your hand. If you thought, nah, they're just milquetoast worms, raise your hand. Okay, you didn't like that, okay. All right, by the way, behavior analyst Scott Rouse from Behavior Panel is here to share what he saw while watching these candidates tonight. Scott, thank you for being here. We kind of got you over in the dark right now, but we'll get you. Now, listen, what did you want to hear tonight that you didn't hear? What is it that, if you're undecided, there's something that is in your head, something that you're waiting to get clarity on that you haven't yet? What did you want to hear that you didn't hear tonight? Stand up and say your first name.
My name is Tawana. I heard a lot of decent things. Student loans is one of the most crushing, debilitating debt that is killing America. And I heard no candidate talk about that. That's pressing on my mind. That's pressing on my family. That's pressing on housing and a lot of important issues and things in my household. And yeah, I didn't hear anything about that. So that's really on my mind.
Everything you just said, and you're right, nobody talked about student loans or how that's going to be handled, but everything you just said seemed to have a common thread of affordability. And they did talk about that some. How important is affordability to everyone here? If that's in your top two or three, raise your hand. Okay, affordability is important. And stay with me for just a second. Did you hear anything about affordability that made you feel like one side or the other is more interested in meeting you where you are in dealing with your challenges than the other?
Yes and no. So I heard a lot about blaming migrants and all of that. What is the solution? I live close to downtown Dallas. Homelessness is absolutely crazy. And what are the solutions? I mean, housing that there's empty buildings. They keep building luxury apartments, luxury places. where are you putting these homeless people? Yes, I'm not homeless. These people here are not homeless, but it's not just, oh, that's not my problem. It's an American problem. It's a worldwide problem. What are we doing? And I don't know if I've heard enough from either side about that. Healthcare as well too. It's pressing.
All right. Is your life better or worse off than it was 4 years ago?
4 years ago,
Financially?
no. It's
You better or worse?
It's kind of, you know what?
No, that's all right.
Other circumstances in life, life circumstances, but it could be better.
Okay. Let me ask the group, how many of you, and think back, because we're here in 24, so I know 2020 was a different time because we were like, and the COVID and all that sort of thing. But think about cost and how you were doing in terms of paying childcare and getting your bills paid and buying gas and doing all the things that you did in 2020 versus where you are now in 2024. Just overall affordability life-wise, are you better off now or were you better off then? If you were better off 4 years ago in terms of having a little money left over at the end of the month versus now, raise your hand. Raise it real high so the camera can get it. Looks at least about half of you. All right, if you're better off now than you were 4 years ago, raise your hand. Okay, so inflation helps some of you. Tell me, what's your, will you stand up and tell me your name? Yeah, you're getting ambushed.
Yeah, that's okay. My name's Jennifer.
Okay, Jennifer, thank you. Why are things better than they were 4 years ago?
Well, I think it's just our circumstances. I don't know that it necessarily had anything to do. We're obviously paying more for eggs and bacon and those kinds of things, right? But I just think our circumstances are better than they were 4 years ago, so.
Okay, and you think that has to do with you, not with the government?
I think that has to do with us, yes.
Okay. I asked you that for a reason, because I want to know what the rest of you think about what Jennifer's saying here. How much do you think it matters in terms of the way your life goes day to day, week to week, whether it's Trump or Harris as president? And I'm going to ask you this in an answerable way in a minute, but my point is, do you think how your life goes is more up to you and what you do and your circumstances and the job you may get or lose or whatever? Or do you think it's more determined by who's president and what the government is doing at the time? If it's more up to you and what you do, raise your hand. Raise it real high so the camera can get it. Okay, if you say, no, if the government cripples us, if they do things that make it hard, then it doesn't help us, raise your hand. Okay, raise it real high so the camera can see it. Okay. All right, most of you said it's self-determination. It's up to what you do. What'd you want to say? You're doing this. That means call on me so I can stand up and say something.
Well, it's kind of up to me for my destiny or my kids' destiny, so forth. But I keep a log of my gas mileage and how much I pay for a tank of gas. If 4 years ago it was $2.49 for premium, and now I'm paying almost $5 for premium, that matters. That's how many gallons over a year am I paying more of. Mm-hmm. And when my three kids, my husband and I would go to dinner, and it would be $80 for us to go to a nicer restaurant, and now it's $80 for just my husband and I to go to a restaurant. That matters. Yeah. And that builds over time. We can be ambitious all we want, but that's still affecting our bottom line.
Sure. Yeah, you can work harder, but if everything's going up,
right,
it doesn't matter. Okay. All right. Who else has a comment or a feeling about the affordability issues? Yes, ma'am. Raise your hand. Stand up. Say your first name.
I'm also a Jennifer. So, right. I think government does play a role in a bigger way, but I think, and this isn't what we're voting on right now, primarily, but local and state government, I think, have hurt me more than the president.
How so?
Property taxes, insurance rates for my property, insurance rates for my car, raising 2 kids and trying to get through the school district system and all the fees I'm having to pay just for them to get to do basic activities. All that is kind of controlled more by my state than by my president. So,
Okay. So it does have to do with government, but it's more local.
yeah.
How many of you feel that way? How many of you feel like the federal part and everything they do in an overarching way is one thing, but what they're doing with like local sales tax, state tax, all that is where you really get hit? Raise your hand. Raise it real high so we can see it. Okay. And let me get up on my soapbox for a minute and say that's why you need to pay attention down ticket. Not just click the box up top, Republican, Democrat, or just the first few that are up there that you have name recognition on because they spend a lot of money. Those folks that are at the local and state level that are passing property tax, school tax, franchise tax, state income tax, those can really hit you. Robert and I moved here a few years ago from California, where they have like 13.68% state income tax. Now think about adding that on to your tax bill at the end of each year. But it used to be a beautiful state, so well, now not so much, because they are having trouble managing it, which is probably why you're seeing Kamala Harris instead of the current governor, Newsom. I think he was headed for that position until he ran California off into the ocean. Just my opinion, I'm just saying. Did you hear anything tonight that really disturbed you from either candidate? Something you heard from them where you said, no, I wouldn't have said that, or I wouldn't have talked about it. Yes, sir, stand up, say your first name.
I'm Dave. And the thing that concerned me the most was when they were talking about guns, and Walz just ended by saying, sometimes it's just the guns. I mean, my jaw hit the floor on that, because JD was trying to explain to us how mental health plays an issue, other things plays an issue. He wasn't pinpointing it, and Walz said, well, sometimes it's just the guns, and that's scary to put that in the hands of the government.
Yeah, I thought about that when he said it, because you make these New Year's resolutions, and I remember one time I got some jogging shoes and I put them on the front porch and the damn things just wouldn't jog. And I thought, sometimes it's just the jogging shoes, it's up to them.